Our coverage of the big 2022 races with a look now at the growing Democratic primary field for U.S. Senate. There are nearly a dozen candidates hoping to take on Republican U.S. Senator Ron Johnson if he runs. Most recently, Steven Olikara, founder of the Millennial Action Project, joined the race. Here's my conversation with him. Everyone just keeps talking about how this is really a crowded primary already. What is your lane?
Well, we always knew it would be a crowded primary, and what motivates me in this race is to create a new lane in politics. I've been working in this field for about 10 years through my last organization, Millennial Action Project, and it's become clear to me that without creating a new lane in politics that's focused on more inclusion, more dignity, more humanity, we won't be able to really solve the scale of the problems that we're facing, whether it's taking on our long-term environmental crises or our long-term economic crises. And so our job in this race is to listen to Wisconsinites with a lot of humility and authenticity, and then try and stitch that together into a larger positive agenda for change that we'll take to the U.S. Senate.
What did you learn about millennials? What do they care about most, and what would you take with you to the Senate?
Well, millennials right now are highly disillusioned by the political process right now, and that's actually part of a larger trend. A majority of Wisconsinites, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, don't believe that politics will solve the problems that we face. And so a big challenge in our democracy right now, which is part of the reason why we're running this race, is to reinstill faith in the political process. That's why our #1 agenda item is to fundamentally change the business model of our politics. Right now, politics profits on dehumanization and conflict. And that's why so many ideas and agenda items that even have majority support don't pass. So our job is to change that business model.
How do you do that? What do you mean by that?
So our first piece of legislation in the U.S. Senate will be getting money out of politics. I believe money is at the root of what is creating this dysfunctional business model. You have politicians, for example, who go to Washington and then spend a majority of their time not doing their job. Instead, they become telemarketers dialing for dollars with donors. Or another thing that often happens is, because of the amount of money you need to run a race and the amount of rich people, frankly, you need to know, a lot of working class people can't realistically run for office. So that means their agenda items are not getting the attention they deserve, among other reasons. So there is a real problem right now with how this money in the system is really creating perverse outcomes, not to mention the fact that politicians are highly incentivized to find the worst and most negative messaging against people because that's what stokes fear and division. And so I think that's an immoral business model that we have to change.
And I think everyone knows it's a very polarizing time right now. And you say you want to focus on humanity and dignity, which is easy to say. But how will you put that in your campaign? I mean, are you pledging not to speak ill about the other candidates, or how are you putting that into action?
So the good news is we've already been putting that vision into action over the last 10 years. And the way it most impacts this work is the fact that legislators need to build diverse coalitions to pass legislation. It sounds simple, but that's often not what happens in Congress. And so whether it was working on legislation to pass clean energy funding or helping to ensure the Centers for Disease Control can study gun violence as a public health issue and have the funding to do that, passing multiple criminal justice reforms, these are the types of bills that I've been working on to actually pass, and that only happened because we built diverse coalitions. Or if you take last fall here in Wisconsin, we had the extraordinary challenge of running an election during a pandemic, and I was really proud to help start the Vote Safe Wisconsin coalition with the only group of sitting elected officials, Democrats and Republicans, to help strengthen the absentee voting system. So these are the real changes that are possible when we bring our state together.
When it comes to Senator Ron Johnson, we still don't know if he's running yet, but he's pulled off an upset before. So why do you think you would be the best suited Democrat to beat him?
Well, our candidacy will be the strongest at not only energizing Democrats, but also attracting disillusioned voters, including politically homeless Republicans and independents. And I think too often in a political campaign, it's so easy to just take the most partisan route. And I see why that happens, because it is very profitable financially. But that doesn't set you up to actually govern in the U.S. Senate. And so we will be the strongest in the general election because we will create the coalition that is required to win in Wisconsin. That's something that Tammy Baldwin did, that Joe Biden did, Barack Obama did, and we'll definitely be building on that playbook.
Okay. Senate candidate Steven Olikara, thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.